So Voices San Diego, KPBS, and inewsource have entered a partnership to cover what's happening to our democracy. It's called the Public Matters Project. What are your hopes for it?
Well, I think that there is a lot that goes into making this community the way that it is, and a lot of that is super complex. And I think that creates this distance between the vast majority of people in San Diego and the people who run things. And I see our role as a translator, making all that stuff accessible, because you can't really be involved in your community unless you understand that stuff.
Scott, you and I met on election night a very long time ago.
Yeah.
At the time, the local news landscape looked very differently. The San Diego Union Tribune was flush with reporters. They had bureaus across the county. Commercial TV stations had reporters at every big news story. We're in the midst of a high-stakes presidential election. We're in campaign season locally, also very important. How would you describe the state of local journalism today?
Well, there has been a massive and painful contraction of the resources and the number of people involved in local journalism, involved in telling stories, in explaining and deciphering all that's happening in public affairs. Now, some of it is natural, right? We don't need people who just take information from one source and give it to the other, because the machines can do that. There's a lot of information available online and directly from the source. What we still need, though, and what we're losing too fast, are the people who find out what leaders don't want to say or make sense of what they do want to say. And I think that that's the scary part, and that's what we've all worked to try to replace or try to grow in a different way. I think that that we are at a moment, a big moment for the nation and for San Diego. I think our housing crisis, our cost of living crisis, our homelessness crisis, all of the issues that go along with law enforcement and the environment and in San Diego, those are big issues that we need a lot of leadership on. And these are the moments where we get to watch the kind of bolts come apart in the universe and peer in and make a difference before it settles back together and continues cooking.
I want to bring this point back, though, to where local journalism is. I know that even in the past 5 years, I've seen such a shrinkage of political coverage, especially during campaign season, to the point where if I were an average citizen, I don't know that it would be clear to me, even if I read a daily newspaper, exactly where a candidate stood on all the big issues that you just mentioned. That's the part that worries me. How worried are you?
I think that the real place you see this play out is in mailers. Mailers fill our mailboxes the moment ballots come out, and they take little snippets of information that you and I report or that other people put out, and they twist it and exaggerate it or put it into context in a way to inflame people's passions about the candidates. And that's just an awful way to learn about local politics, and yet it's probably responsible for the vast majority of information that people have when they go into the voting booth. And that is not great, and that's scary. On the other hand, I think that the people who want to know, they do have access to that information. What we've got to do is build that bridge, right? Make sure it's accessible. Everybody's news information system right now is coming through feeds, and we got to make sure that we're in those feeds along with the random TikTok guy or the social media influencer, and we got to be there and be present and make sure that people have access to great information as easy as the bad information comes to them.
I want to close this out, though, with the topic that we started this discussion with, and that is democracy. So much has been made about how polarized we are as a country. Have you seen any evidence of that division at the local level in San Diego County?
Oh, of course. It is really bad. You know, people who used to be friends not talking to each other. Now, I think we need to keep this in context. You know, back in the early part of the 20th century, there was regular political violence, bombings, and we're not in that world right now. But we are at a moment where people are living in different realities. Local, we're able to get through that because local is right here. You can see a pothole, you can go to a school, you can see a fire. And I think that that gives us the opportunity to create bonds between people who are in different realities better than they can nationally, but it's still a major challenge.
Scott Lewis, thank you so much for speaking to me today.
Anytime, thanks.